Do you hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I love? Patreon.com/Inkdependence, where patrons get access to a patron-only Discord, ad-free videos, and the joy of knowing they help support this channel. Hello folks, welcome to Inkdependence. I'm Mike, and today I have an ink for you from our friends over at Endless Pens, and also Robert Oster's signature. You can tell this is a shimmering ink by the bottom, a whole bunch of shimmer in the bottom. Also, you have the silver cap and label for those shake and shimmy inks. This one is called Sago at Black Gulaman, and actually when I got this, I was like, what in the world are these words? Because I just didn't recognize any of them except for at and black. Sago and Gulaman, I didn't know what the heck that was. This was an ink that was made for the 2024 Manila Pen Show, and it's actually really cool, and it refers to drink. So this bottle is 50 mils, and it goes for $26 for the shimmering version. There is also a not so shimmering version, in fact a no shimmer at all version, that is $18 that you can find on their website as well. So go over to Endless Pens, tell them I said hi, and also if you look below, there is an affiliate link down there if you'd like to use that. That will throw a little bit of cash my way in the form of store credit, I think. So, you know, check that out. All right, let's take a look at this on some paper. All right, there you go. There's Robert Oster, Sago at Black Gulaman with a whole bunch of shimmer. In fact, it's actually maybe too much shimmer for some uses because this is actually, in this light, hard to read because it's just shining back at the camera so much. But plenty of shimmer in a lot of these areas. You also notice that there are some places that just don't really have any shimmer. So this part I wrote right here, which I wrote, you know, very, very recently actually because I forgot to fill in that part. It's, you know, whatever. And then this part down here that just doesn't really have all that much shimmer, although there is some. There are some occasions I've had with this ink for it to sort of like not exactly clog up, but the shimmer seems to sort of clog itself up, and you get the ink itself without the shimmer. And actually, the ink is a little bit lacking there too. Like it was just kind of getting a little bit blocked. Eventually, that like shimmer dam will burst, and you'll get a bunch more shimmer, and you'll get more of the ink itself. This is the pen they sent with it. This is the Leonardo Momento Zero Hades, which is a really beautiful pen. These are also available out there. This one's with ruthenium trim, and it has the elastic fine nib on it. So the reason did I actually ask for this? Actually, I think they just sent this to me. So yeah, this is I didn't ask for the nib. This is just what they sent, which is actually a really good match for this ink. You can see it does have the same kind of like colors and shimmers going through it, and the elastic fine is generally wet enough to keep this going. However, sometimes you will, as I said, get a little bit of a shimmer dam, and that will lead to a little bit of an anemic flow. Usually you can get that fixed up by just sort of pressing the nib on the paper and like giving it a little bit of flex. If, however, you don't have a flexible nib, one trick for breaking up a shimmer dam is to very carefully access the converter and then twist the converter until you can see some ink up here. Let's see if I can do it without making a mess. There you go. You see there's ink up at the top now, and then just sort of like move it back and forth, and it's sort of like swishing it out, you know. And that'll usually move the shimmer around a little bit, and you'll be able to get the ink flowing again just fine. So these clogs are not like permanent or anything. It's just like a mild inconvenience that you get for using a very, very shimmery ink. So really interesting ink. The flow on this one is fairly wet. There is a whole lot of gold shimmer, and as I said, it's got that elastic fine nib on there. So I like that there are two versions of this. I think that's really neat. I think the chromatography here is very cool as well. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of a water drop test, and we'll look at it on some different papers, look at it next to some other inks, you know, that sort of thing. I like how there's this little tinge of blue up the top, which is really interesting. But given this blank area down here, I'm not really holding out much hope for any kind of water resistance. And you can see it definitely swirling away, but there is actually a little bit left, it looks like, below the ink there. So, yeah, all right. Well, I think you could make out your writing, but it's going to be dicey. These dots seem to stuck around. Actually, is that just shimmer? I don't know. I think a lot of that's actually shimmer. There's a tiny bit of a sort of a reddish tinge, but a lot of that's kind of shimmery. So yeah, this one, no water resistance on this one at all. It came up and soaked our little paper towel here with brownish color. So yeah, don't expect any kind of water resistance from this one. All right, so here it is on our Staples 20-pound 30% recycled copy paper, and this is from Elastic Fine Nib, which is generally a fairly wet nib. This is I'd say it's a fairly wet ink as well. I don't see any feathering, which is really nice, actually. I was kind of expecting some. And then on the back side, just a bit of bleed through. on a few of the leathers here. Actually, just the top ones. That's really interesting. It kind of stopped feathering here or bleeding here. But as you can see for the rest of this, that's pretty common. And in fact, this is pretty darn good performance. This is just not great paper. It's what you find in your office copy paper or office copier because it's great for that, but it's not so good for liquid ink. So it does pretty okay on that. Next up, I have it out here on some Mormon croquis paper. I really like this croquis paper. It's one of my favorite papers to write on right now. It's great for shading and sheen and all that kind of stuff. I think a little bit of... Oh, okay, that's just a little bit of spots. It's not actually a bleed through. There's nothing on the other side of that. So yeah, no bleed through or anything like that. Croquis paper is very good for that. And you can see there's plenty of shimmer in most of this. And where there isn't shimmer, you still get a very nice brown color. But you can see, interestingly, a whole bunch of shimmer here, a lot of shimmer in this line, and then some of this just doesn't really shimmer. So there's some shimmer like in that, but not a huge amount. So... well, I don't know. Am I seeing shimmer? Hold on. Let me get a little off-axis light here to help us out. Yeah, there's some shimmer in all of that, but it's most intense, of course, up here at the top. So, yeah, interesting performance from this one. But here, if you want to learn about some warning symbols, some meaningless warning symbols, we'll take a little screenshot of that from the 99% Invisible City by Roman Mars and Kurt Kolstad. Also, check out their podcast, 99% Invisible. It's pretty fun. All right, here we have it in my Inky Fingers Currently Inked book. This is wheat straw paper, which is really hard to find now, but it's kind of like sugarcane paper, so you might want to hunt some of that down. It's usually very good with fountain pens, and this has been really nice, actually. You got a lot of shimmer here. You get a good look at the actual ink color, which is this nice warm brown. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good on here. I like it. And lastly, for our paper samples, we have here Galen Leather Co. Everyday Book. This is Old School Tomoe River. And here is that entry right up there. Tons of shimmer on this one. In fact, there's some shimmer on my finger right there too. So when there's a huge amount of shimmer like this, you're generally going to get some coming off. So just kind of get used to that. If you want to use shimmer with an extremely shimmery ink like this, you're going to have that shimmer sitting on top and it will just rub off on other stuff around it. So it's just kind of that's one of the hazards of the game, but it does look very nice on this paper. It's cool looking, and that shimmer does kind of spread around and sort of gild the rest of the page a little bit. All right, so for comparisons, here it is on a Color Ring card. This is a Colodex card, actually, because I usually keep them in a Colodex sort of situation, like a Rolodex. And you can see on here, you get that nice warm brown, good tones. I think the non-shimmering version of this ink is going to be a real pretty one too. So there's that. I pulled some shimmery ones, just like, I don't know, maybe I only got one. I only got one shimmery one because the only one that's kind of close. And that's this one here. This is Diamine Yule Log from Inkvin a couple of years back. And I think the browns are fairly similar when you don't have the shimmer going on. So I think this is fairly similar to Yule Log. But then, of course, the shimmer is very different. This one having a copper or sort of rose goldy sort of shimmer, and this one being straight up tons of gold shimmer. So kind of the same color, but very different effects. Then the next three, actually, let's see if I can just tilt this a little bit so you can see more of the brown. Yeah, that's a little better. Maybe. All right, so then we have Sailor 50 States, Texas, which is kind of close, but definitely, I think, warmer. It's more of a red tone than Sago here is. And then we've got Bookbinders Eastern Brown, which is a snake ink, but also you can't get Bookbinders inks anymore. And again, this is a little bit more on the reddish side. It's kind of closer to that one. And then lastly, Platinum Mix-Free Earth Brown. Again, kind of a redder brown. It turns out I don't really have anything that's not shimmery that's close to this. So this one I think is the closest you're going to get, which is Yule Log. So if you want a non-shimmery version of this, buy the non-shimmery version of this, because I've got a ton of browns and I don't really have anything that is that close. So that's kind of neat. Robert Oster does a really good job with browns. I think they sometimes can run a little bit on the drier side, but this one doesn't seem to, and I like that. Oh, there's a little writing sample on the back of that one as well. So it used to be called the Fine Flex, but it's not really that flexy, so it's called the Elastic Fine these days. But yeah, nice color, good amount of shimmer, maybe a little bit too much shimmer in some cases. Maybe just like don't shake it up as much and you'll have less shimmer. That might help. Or use a wider nib. That also might help there. But yeah, I have had a few little clogs and that sort of thing with my Elastic Fine. But check out these things over at Endless Pens, and thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in another video soon. Until then, peace out.